I look now at age 46, and I think about what a blessing it was, not the curse that I thought it was when I felt like I didn't have friends, or I wished that I looked differently, or whatever, that, that I fit in with the white crowd. Now I realize that I was being set apart. And I'm very grateful for that.
Love that
Don't make me
word.
cry.
Set apart.
I was being set apart.
Set apart. And we talk about that a lot too, being set apart.
Being set apart. And so that you could also focus. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when we in the Christian community, we were to be a peculiar people, right? To be set apart doesn't mean that you're, some hermit. It doesn't mean that. It means that you have, to me, an intense focus. There's a life goal, and I have these things written on my refrigerator, and I'm like, I don't want to die with a whole tank or a half a tank or a quarter tank. I want to die here on empty. I want to leave it all out. And I believe, this is where I am now. But, if I've got 40 more years or 20 more years or 10 more years, God's going to say, you did what you were called to do. Well done, thy good
daughter.
and faithful servant.
Yes.
And whatever that is, it doesn't mean that your name's in all these lights. It just means that, when I go to a little school here in town and interact with those little kids at Booker T. Washington Elementary on a Friday, and sometimes I see that poverty of spirit and that poverty of not quite sure of my options, but then they light up when somebody says, "Scholar, you are brilliant." Now, right now, you're not acting it, but inside that mind is a genius. Inside that mind is somebody, is a way of thinking that no one else has. And that's what I want you to give me. And that kid's face turns like, wow, she believes in me. And what I was the beneficiary of is that somebody, not just my parents, but there was a play aunt and a real aunt that believed in me. And hearing that you are worth it, that you can do it, before that became a presidential catchphrase, is what got me there. Because there were plenty of times when I felt like this is over my head, i.e. the first time I walked in the state capitol. But you stick to it knowing that you're equipped, and what you're not equipped to do, God will equip you to do.
Well, we talk a lot, Joanna and I, about women on the front line, and we also have interviewed your pastor's wife.
Yes.
Roz Akins.
Absolutely.
And Roz talks about her school, and some of what you're saying echoes what Roz was saying to us in an interview about that whole thing of just putting into these kids. Yeah. Wearing jackets and wearing ties and, teaching them the way, giving them the options.
That's right.
So I guess you and she might have had conversations.
Well, we didn't talk about that, but of course she's my pastor's wife. I work with Roz on occasion. She's not shy to ask for help.
No, she's not. Yeah, we learned that.
But look at the success that somebody, and she's somebody who I've interviewed several times, not just because, Bracktown is my church home, but because of the two major tenets of that church has been salvation and education, because nobody can take away either one of those things from you. And so that's what that church is about. And that's what drew me to that church, was that, one, you preach the gospel, but then you also empower the people to know that, maybe the preacher's not gotten it right, and you need to be able to read the Bible and interpret it for yourself. And the only way you do that is to educate yourself on a daily basis. But you also show people who have that poverty or spirit, you know what? You're worth a nice blue jacket with a crest that says Carter G and a tie. And you're also worth us really putting the fear of God in you if you don't have the word of the day memorized, right? It's not just about giving you the things that make you feel good. It's about requiring you to press toward the knowledge that makes you excellent. I mean, that's a mantra that I have adopted for myself, is I do excellence. I am excellence. Now, I don't always feel that way, and I can go back and look at shows and interviews where I'm like, well, that wasn't so excellent. But at the next time I do it, it's got to be better than the last time.
Every time
you
you
always
learn.
probably said this too. The last column I write had to be the best column.
Well, I didn't even know it was going to be my last column, but
That's true. But you always want to put everything
in it
into it.
and represent.
Because and it's like, I had a big debate. We don't call them debates at KET, but a big forum with the 6th congressional district candidates. And I carried the weight of being African American and a woman and middle-aged and all of these identities with me, as if you're not just doing this for you or for KET, you're doing it for all these people. And for the little young girl who's sitting on 6th Street, who you met at a gymnasium, who's also wondering if she can, you've got to show her that, yes, you can, because I am doing it. And so you carry that weight. And some people would say, well, that's too much. That's a burden. No, that's a blessing.
And that's what I think becomes important, is making the distinction between being a burden and being a blessing.
That's right.
And being gifted. Because there are people, African Americans, who feel like it's a burden, and they will tell you, well, I'm just a journalist.
Right.
I'm not black. So they shed I'm not a woman. I'm just doing this, as if those parts of yourself, like you said, leaving those parts at the door. But you bring all of that.
Yeah. And you don't have to wear a shirt that says I'm a black woman.
Right.
People can figure that out.
Yeah, they can see.
Like hello before you say hello. You don't have to do all that. But you can, but the way, I've watched people try to watch how I'm thinking. Right? Because, when they're talking, I'm thinking, and I'm thinking it in the terms of my frame of reference, which is my identity, my faith, my experiences. All of that comes into play. There's no such thing as an unbiased person. We all carry our biases. That's just how it is. And so as a journalist, you have to recognize I have all this baggage, just like everybody else. But when I'm writing this or I'm covering this, I do have to make an intentional attempt and to just tell the story, tell the fact.